So right now they went into silent mode. Out of preservation.
And if
Dead
you
there.
are just joining us, welcome here to the Launchpad. Wow, those last 13 minutes, I'm speechless. I think, like all of us here.
I don't think there's a point to sit there and listen into someone's thoughts on this type of stuff. I think we all understand what's going on. More elevator music. Because you complained. Always. But yeah, that's, we'll see if anything else shows up here. So far, I'm going to bring this screen back down. And I am going to adjust those for who are in landscape. And you're looking at where it will coming back. I don't think this thing's coming back. I think if it was coming back, we'd be hearing more news. So, but yeah, they would be showing a lot of different angles and stuff. So, the veil must be super thin since was able to break through the firmament. Well, I look at the firmament and atmosphere as the exact same thing. The atmosphere was a word that came into our language just 200 years ago. It's kind of like saying that the word unicorn in the Bible did not mean rhinoceros, because that's what it meant. If you look at the word rhinoceros in the dictionary a couple hundred years ago, it would actually sit there and say unicorn in the definition of it. So lots of people, understood that, looked at it that way. But if you want to say that you are a firm believer that firmament and atmosphere is two totally different things, then I would say to you, I would ask the question, do you see rhinoceros and unicorn two different things? And then ask you, do you believe in unicorns altogether in the Bible, and they are no longer around? Yeah, thanks, Charlotte. Yeah, I love teaching that point because I see a lot of people. They come in here, they talk about the firmament, and I respect it. I love it, but I love to do the educational points on it, of language of words. The Bible didn't change wording or anything like that. We changed our way of speaking. That's what has taken place. And I know that some people sit here and say, well, then update the Word of God. And the Word of God isn't made to fit what you want to believe. The Word of God is the Word of God, and it is up to you, if that's a path that you want to go to believe in. But can you break past the atmosphere? And there is the fair question right there. And I love that you said that, because you are saying that, hey, all right, I get what you have just said and that you respect that. And so now you're saying, hey, can we still break through the atmosphere? And that's a great point. Now, according to what we've been seeing with SpaceX, they've been punching through the stratosphere as well as all the rest of the NASA flights for the last 50 plus years. But we are seeing scientists who are sitting there saying, hey, punching through the stratosphere, that's a problem, because if you've noticed, a lot of auroras have come up with the red aurora, which used to be used to be rare, and now we see them a lot. So that is, man, that's a pretty cool view that's taking place right there. But yes, that is a very fair question. Can we actually punch through all the way? And that's something for you to decide how you want to, because I can't prove to you. I can't prove to you that this is CGI or this is not CGI. I cannot do that, and I can't think of any type of way to prove to you that this is how it would even look. Even if this was CGI, how do we know this is actually what it looks like? I'm just a very fair and honest person. I can't prove it to you. I can talk to you about how the Earth is a globe or is a accretion disk. I can talk about those 2 points. I can point you to things like that. You can go and stand on the volcano mountain in Hawaii. You can actually look at the great vastness of the ocean, and you can actually look to the left and the right, and you can see that it does go down. Hawaii used to say that Earth was Tortuga, which is in definition a tortoise shell, because they were able to see that bend. So, but yes, great answer. Appreciate your thoughts on that. You are welcome, and I'm an open door to anybody who says, "Hey, go kick rocks." I'm totally fine with that. Anything can be, a rabbit hole if you try hard enough. That's the truth, Joseph. So it's a self-discovering thing. It definitely is. What is the view of? So this view is from the inside of the spaceship. I guess now they're showing the outside here. So yeah, that is good to go. The booster did not come back. Where it went to, I have no idea. I don't feel like listening to someone talk for as much as I am, just to try and figure out, hey, where this has happened at. So, you start changing it, and it becomes like a rumor, changing every story each time. Yeah. But yeah, there was our every time I hear my wife sneeze, I always say, "God bless you." But yeah, there was our launch today. The tortoise thing is a great reference. It really is. It's one of the things that I loved when I went out to Maui, and there was a person there that sat there and was subscribing, and I was like, "That's really cool." And that was before Flat Earth really became such big news again. So it's just their way of thinking. If you get into anybody else who was, 250 years or older, it was all flatness. There was a couple that had a little bit of ideas and things like that, but Hawaii, or I forget, what's the word that you call them? Do you call them Samoans? They're the only ones that I know of that knew that there was somewhat of curvature there. So I could have saved China some embarrassment. Oh man, on that stock rocket, yeah. It actually meant to show that and forgot all about that. So yeah. What was the vote on TikTok? It was insanely horrible. 81% said that they were all in favor of banning TikTok. And we can't even get, a unanimous decision like that on any of the other things that we vote on. Is the P8 looking for... let's see if he is near it. I mean, he could be. I don't see anything out there. So, but yeah, it's not going to Cape Canaveral. This was to return back at Texas. So sorry, just realized that you said Cape Canaveral on that. So yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. That's something else taking place. So yeah, should be looking for it out in here. Interview. What do you mean interview? I'm sorry. At the age gap between who's in Congress and who uses TikTok. Yeah, and that's a great point. So, never mind me, but I grew up in the 80s and I read the tabloids and discovered many things that came. True, yeah. Um, yeah, that was something that was different. What's today versus 40 years ago, or even 30 years ago, or even 20 years ago. Our times have changed. You get a lot more in today's age. You get a lot of people who like to be argumentative. They like to say their point of view, and they want to argue till they're purple in the face, and they don't want to listen to facts at all. They're not actually open-minded. They love to sit here and say that they're open-minded and that they respect all beliefs, all religions, all thoughts, all that type of stuff, but they don't. So I'm just being a realist. Back in the day, you would have a conversation, with, like you said, the tabloids would sit there and say, hey, we're working on this project here. And you either made up your own mind to go with it or not, and you went to school the next day with, hey, did you hear this? And then a couple of days later, you moved on with your life. If it came to be, cool. If it didn't, cool. So, what's happening with Catherine? I don't know. Apparently, she's supposed to be showing herself in at East, for Easter. So she has, 20-ish more days, or I'm sorry, 10-ish more days. So, yep. There is some truth to things. There's always a little truth in everything. Government won't ban TikTok on election just because they want the young people's votes. That's a thought process right there, Mama. Because I think you might be onto something. If they sat here and took down TikTok, I think a lot of these young kids would be like, no, I'm not voting for a president that signed this into action. Could be wrong, but I think you could be onto something right there. So, but if you leave it up, then they're what they're afraid of. What I feel they're afraid of. They're afraid of the truth of what some people are going to be saying, and there's going to be people who are going to have a camera up at the voting places outside and showing how there actually is people who block the areas going in to vote, how there's campaigning that's done outside of it. They're gonna show a lot of things, and I don't know if that's something they want to get into, and I mean that for the overall. I'm not talking about Democrat or Republican or conservative or liberal or whatever. I'm talking about all of the whole entire bird. I don't know if that's something that they would want to be shown on Meta Universe. They get by with it because not enough people know how to exactly follow each other. But on TikTok, that algorithm pushes it to where it knows what you interact with is what it's going to show you. So, let's see what is going on about turning the lights off in Texas. So, that is dealing with bird watching. Apparently, I got something in my throat. Sorry. That is going on, or not bird watching, but that deals with birds. That's all that is. How it came to be of some people wanting it to try to make you freak out about it. Well, welcome to people trying to get clicks. So yeah, that's all that is. It's for birds so they can see their flight path at night. And right now it's too many lights. So that is all that is about. Appreciate that, Trish, with the feather flock. Let's go. Thank you so much for that. You got to remember it passed bipartisan. Yeah, it stinks. So you're talking 80% in the House. 80% in the House. So the majority leader in the Senate is going to delay it in committee, just like McConnell did. We'll see. I don't know. I know that I'm afraid of how quick it's going to move. I feel that it is. Could be wrong, and I hope I am wrong. I also feel that if it does pass, that TikTok's not going to sell. They're not up for sale. This ain't the first country that has shut them down. So why would they now all of a sudden sit there and say that they're open to selling? So, then, you know, you can sit here and ask yourself, who's behind all of this? Is it Meta? Is it Amazon? Well, that's for you to think about, because we're finding that there's prices cheaper on TikTok Shop than there is on Amazon. And that is wow. At first, I thought that it was junk and used junk that you were buying off the TikTok Shop. But I asked the question one day on here, and I'll do it again, just so that y'all can see. For people, let's do this. If you have bought two or more products, and you are happy with your product, do a smiley face. But if you've seen that you've bought two or more and they've been crappy, then sad face. Watch this, everybody. So, watch this. You can only start a poll. What? Well, the existing one ends. Where's the other poll taking place? I don't see what the poll results are. Okay, so on my end, I can't see anything. I see all the happy faces go. I wish I could end this, but I can't. Once that poll ends, I'll redo it. Nah, you're good, Jamie. Don't worry about it. I like the little quick poll versus, you know, trying to do the other thing. Did you see that? Yes, from the actual TikTok account. Made a video about it. Yeah. I hate it when I see sadness in people's eyes. That's a new look that's taking place right there. Again, anybody who is looking in landscape mode, you click right about in this area and you can see this in big screen. So, let's try and do that poll again. I don't know why it's continuing to tell me that. I guess something is taking place. So, let's see, I'm adding options to this. All right, so we're gonna, is someone running a poll or something? Yeah, I wonder if it's glitching or something. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of yeah, I don't see the poll either. You see the old poll. Yeah, see, something's taking place that's messing up. Yeah, I'm thinking that it's glitching out. But anyhow, I did that before, and I seen how many people were happy with TikTok Shop, and that was awesome. You're seeing that it says 23 to 11. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you don't see a poll. I don't know if someone was trying to run it as I was, and now it's glitched everything out. Because I keep getting a message every time I hit starts, and it says you can only start a poll when the existing one ends. So, all right, I'm thinking of restarting, but yeah, it is just results, but yeah. All right, I'm gonna turn this back on and let y'all listen to this. Okay, so this is different. Yeah, I'm gonna just let y'all listen to this, because I got some things to do, but I'm just gonna leave this up.
Fat bitch. You sent me videos of your mom.
Yeah, she's making videos about Reddit. Here I go blocking someone else with a private account.
It has been a phenomenal test day. Just to see Booster lifting a Starship to ascent, ship completing its ascent. Just a wonderful day. Kind of to recap the objectives a little bit. Booster completed its ascent, ignited its 33 Raptor engines. We demonstrated a successful hot staging for the second time. Booster completed the boost back burn, didn't quite accomplish the landing burn, and then had a hard splashdown in the Gulf. Meanwhile, ship completely successful after the hot staging. We had a good 6-engine burn of the Raptor vacuum engines and sea level engines. And then we've commanded a number of demonstrations, including the Starlink satellite deploy demo, so the payload door, as well as a prop transfer demonstration. We do still need to do some data review on those, so as we get that data back, we'll be sure to update you on social for how those tests went. We are coming up on our next major milestones, which is an in-space relight of our Raptor engine for the first time, followed by re-entry and then landing in the Indian Ocean.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's right, guys. We should be just about 40 seconds away, 40 or 50 seconds away if we do this relight demo. Do want to stress this is not a deorbit burn. In fact, it's actually going to function a little bit opposite of a deorbit burn. We're going to be raising our perigee with this burn for the lowest point of our orbit. This is just to demonstrate that we can relight a Raptor engine on ship while it's gone through a coast, while it's in outer space, while it's in microgravity, all of the different complexities that come with lighting this engine again after it's already done an ascent burn, but you're now coasting through space. This is going to be really important anytime we want to do in-space maneuvers in the future, like eventual deorbit burns, any of our translunar injections that'll have Raptor engines firing back up. We may not do it. There is all of the guidance is loaded into Starship's computer itself, so if it doesn't see the values that it needs to, we could just skip the burn. So we are waiting to find out if that's going to happen or not. If it doesn't, as we said in the beginning, we're on a pretty steep trajectory that we are coming home no matter what, regardless of doing a burn. This was done just so we can really, we're in a trajectory that's really not super susceptible to delta V changes in velocity. If we were to do a burn, we've got a pretty concise footprint in the Indian Ocean that we're going to be targeting for splashdown today. It does sound like we are skipping past the on-orbit relight demo this time. Again, we'll confirm all of this through our post-flight data review, but it did sound like we did pass through that burn. So now that's going to start setting us up for re-entry.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So coming up next around T plus 49 minutes is Starship re-entry. Now, this is typically a portion of flight where we don't have communications with spacecraft because they're re-entering the Earth's atmosphere at or around orbital velocity, about 8 kilometers per second or roughly 5 miles per second. Super fast. Now, at those speeds, the spacecraft's interaction with the atmosphere results in friction and creates a plasma field around the vehicle. That blanket of plasma distorts communication frequencies, so we're basically left with a brief communications blackout. Now, we might get some telemetry back through a connection to the Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System, also known as TDRS. But if the plasma doesn't entirely block it, that connection will be at a very slow data rate and definitely too slow for any video.
But that's why Starship and Starlink are a great partnership. Starship is so big that it will leave a wake or a hole in the plasma field as it flies through an atmosphere. You can think of a wake kind of like when you see a boat going through the ocean. It sort of leaves a trail behind it. There's some of those great views from Starlink giving us views of Starship's onboard videos. And so we're hoping that the Starlink on board will let us, just like we're seeing these videos now, see through that plasma field by maintaining a continuous communication lock with the satellites on orbit through the wake that Starship leaves behind. Now, this is only the second time that we're testing Starlink during re-entry. So even though we do have these great visuals now, don't be surprised if we manage to get some signal hiccups through. We're still learning about what that wake will actually look like in practice and whether we're able to get that live continuous high-speed data during re-entry.
Yeah, that's right. And one of the really primary reasons we want to use Starlink is to just gather as much data as possible. It's been said the data is the payload on one of these flights, where we're putting this flight hardware in a real flight environment, trying to learn about it as much as possible. Re-entry is going to be a really critical phase of flight. We really want to know how the ship's going to perform, especially that heat shield, as we're going through the hypersonic re-entry. So if something were to go wrong during this re-entry, we want as many paths as possible to collect that information, that data, just to, again, just continually feed back into the Starship program to make each flight more reliable, more successful.
Acquisition signal, Mauritius.
Now, if Starship manages to make it all the way through re-entry, we'll collect valuable data on Starship flying through the Earth's atmosphere at hypersonic speeds, meaning more than 5, or at this point, will be more than 5 times the speed of sound. Now we're watching these live views, HD views by the looks of it, thanks to Starlink. You can see that the flaps there on the ship might be actuating. Certainly some incredible visions of planet Earth behind Starship. Now, we've already validated Starship's ability to fly and land at subsonic speeds. You might recall those suborbital flights from a few years ago, and we can see those flaps there. So getting data on aspects like heating and control while traveling way faster than we did before is going to be critical to eventually bringing Starships back from space for rapid reuse. So I mentioned those flaps. That's one of the things that enables Starship to help control itself and survive the heat of reentry, which, like we said before, we're expecting that reentry to occur around T plus 49 minutes. So we're getting pretty close here.
And what you're seeing here, it looks like the vehicle is sort of moving back and forth. Part of what you're also seeing is one of the cameras, this onboard view that we have, is on the end of a flap. Starship has front flaps and rear flaps in the vehicle. So we've got 4 of those. And, oh man, we can see the heating on those flaps as we're starting to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. This is where the Earth's atmosphere is doing the work to slow us down.
Now, like we said, this plasma field is, wow, what a view. We hope to maintain these views throughout. Starship is so big that we're hoping that the plasma field doesn't entirely blanket the entire vehicle. Right now, it is not. The Starlinks are still...
brought to you by Starlink.
Yeah, the Starlinks are still communicating and still capturing the data and the video that we see here. I mean, Shiva, this is just absolutely incredible views. We've never seen anything like this before. This is the biggest flying object ever in space.
Absolutely, Kate. And it's important to note, with the ascent burn that we did was to get us to orbital velocities, even though we were on a nearly orbital trajectory. So the heating and the loads that Starship is going through right now are what it would be getting if it were recovering from an orbital mission. And just the fact that we have views through entry, this is incredible.
Yeah. Again, this is the furthest and fastest that Starship has ever flown. And you can definitely tell by the crowd here in Hawthorne.
The heat shield tiles doing their work. We talked about it earlier. Up to 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit that those heat shield tiles are dissipating as we are re-entering.
Yeah, now this was one of the critical, or rather the key mission objectives that we were hoping to hit today. We have never, like I said before, this is the fastest and furthest that Starship has ever flown. So this is the first time that we're getting to collect this re-entry data and understand how these 18,000 hexagonal heat shield tiles are working together to protect the belly of Starship as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere.
So I did not know that it was going to do a re-entry. So
as a braking system for Starship as it re-enters the atmosphere.
And that's part of the reason why the flaps are so important. We're using the body of Starship and the drag from the atmosphere to slow us down from orbital speed. But you want the vehicle to remain stable. You want those heat shield tiles pointed down so they can absorb the heat of the Earth's atmosphere. And so that's the purpose that they are serving during the hypersonic phase and then again during the subsonic phase.
Absolutely. So like we said, these views are being provided by a couple Starlink terminals that are positioned on Starship itself. As that plasma builds, we're hoping that we can bring these views back to you, but you can see the telemetry there on the right-hand side of your screen. If you watch closely, you can see the speed decelerating. Again, that's the friction of the atmosphere resulting in this plasma field, or excuse me, the blanket that is potentially blocking the Starlink terminals right now. So we'll bring those views back to you if we get them. But right now, for those of you that have recently joined, Starship is currently re-entering Earth's atmosphere. This is super exciting because it's the furthest and fastest that Starship has ever flown.
It's just absolutely incredible. Major test milestone, something we wanted to accomplish on Flight 2, getting to it today. So just awesome.
Now, we actually have some heat shields here. So these are what's doing all the work on Starship right now. There are 18,000 hexagonal heat shields like these. So this one that I have is flat, like this is what would be positioned on the flaps of Starship, whereas Shiva has something a little different.
Yeah, the one I have would be on the curved surfaces of Starship. I'll just put it in frame here. So we've got these attached at various points around the vehicle. Like you said, Kate, 18,000 of these tiles around, and they're doing the work to make sure that the structure of the vehicle doesn't carry all that thermal load so we can recover the vehicles eventually and get to rapid reuse on them.
They're really lightweight. They sound a little different than I would have expected them to, but they are ceramic. And these are what's helping Starship survive through this period of entry. We're not sure how far we're going to make it. Again, this is the furthest that we've gotten in our test flight, but the further we fly, the more data that we can get, and that's ultimately the measure of success here, which, I mean, I think today has been a huge success given where we've gone and how much further we've gotten with both the booster and Starship itself.
So for the TikTok shutdown, that was a 81% vote in the House. So it now moves on to the Senate. We shall see what takes place there. So I hope that it doesn't pass, but we'll see. Signs point towards, that sadly it is going to pass, but we'll see. So I don't know when the Senate will vote on it. I know relatively soon. I just don't know how soon. So, yeah, I did not know that they were going to be showing a re-entry. So that's interesting.
Exciting end to what has been an exciting day.
Absolutely. And I mean, we've had some tests in the past. We had suborbital campaigns where we have tested out the aerodynamic flaps at subsonic speeds. So that's below the speed of sound. At hypersonic speeds, well, supersonic speeds first, so faster than the speed of sound, and then hypersonic speeds. So that's more than 5 times the speed of sound. The equations of motion change, how the vehicle responds changes. So going through that control phase where we're going from faster than the speed of sound to below the speed of sound was one of the objectives today.
Yeah. And that's actually a great point because we are expecting that entry subsonic period to occur around T plus 1 hour and 3.5 minutes. So we're not there yet. We're about 10 minutes away from that point. So again, that is when Starship would be traveling slower than the speed of sound thanks to the atmospheric braking system.
And so right now we're still waiting to see if we're going to get data back from this ship. We might be in a bit of a blackout period right now. So still waiting to hear the status on it. But yeah, we got to the actual entry portion of today. We started into peak heating, which was just a really big milestone. Starship is pretty unique in the way that it re-enters, especially for something reusable. The closest parallel has been the space shuttle. When we're comparing Starship to like when we bring a Falcon 9 booster back, we're talking about 20 times the energy given the velocity that we're moving at, and all of that energy just gets converted into heat, and then we need to use those tiles to just help dissipate that heat. They're not ablative like you would see on something like Dragon, which uses an ablative in the capsule shape. So they are these tiles that are made to be reusable. So any data we're getting on the actual temperatures it was seeing during heating, all of that is just really hugely valuable. Where Starship is really unique is, and Kate and Shiv have talked about it a couple of times, is once we're through this kind of hypersonic section and we get down to the subsonic. And that's where we really learned a lot and proved that Starship's really just its basic shape could work. And we did that during the suborbital campaign. Again, if you compare it to the shuttle, which entered, it had the wings. It had a similar heat shield system, but it had wings. And then was almost flown like a glider once it re-entered and was down to those subsonic speeds. With Starship, we're not doing that. We're just coming straight down. We'll hit terminal velocity, which with Starship is around 200 miles an hour, and then we use a flip maneuver to ignite those engines, do a landing burn, and then touch down on the ground. So you don't need a runway. We're doing that, again, designed because when we go to the moon, when we go to Mars, there's not going to be a runway there for us, and so that propulsive landing is going to be really important. This is an animation of pretty much what we were just watching on actual Starship video, which is pretty incredible. But we go through peak heating. One of the benefits of today's trajectory, actually, we got closer to what the heating profile will be on just a normal mission when you compare it to our previous flights, which were headed out to Hawaii. So we go through peak heating, and then we hit subsonic, and then Starship splashes down in the ocean. Again, we're not doing a landing burn on this flight, and we're not expecting Starship to survive the impact. We're not going to be recovering any of the hardware. For now, though, we are just still waiting to see if we're going to get some signal back. We're currently at a loss of signal with Starship. Don't know for sure what its status is, and so we're just continuing to listen in. But it was pretty incredible seeing the flaps really do their thing to maneuver the vehicle as it's moving through hypersonic. One of the big trade-offs between something like Shuttle and Starship is wings can be pretty heavy. And so if we can really demonstrate that Starship's controllable through that hypersonic regime when you're coming through the atmosphere, 25 times the speed of sound, you can save a whole lot of weight by not having really big wings. So super valuable to get this data, super valuable to then figure out what we're going to do on our next test flights.
Dan, you'd brought up a really interesting point, too, that for on Shuttle, you are gliding in, going back to a runway. On Starship, because we're landing vertically, we are basically coming down, and then we've seen this during the suborbital campaign. We're not going to see it today, but during the suborbital campaign, we did the flip maneuver and then light our engines for a landing burn. And that's also really important for some of our other terrestrial destinations. That we don't have as much of an atmosphere on Mars. There is pretty much no atmosphere. There's some great views from our previous test campaigns of a landing burn and upright landing. But on the moon, there is no atmosphere. On Mars, the atmosphere is extremely thin, so you actually need some other sophisticated techniques that other landers.
Actually, the Earth's atmosphere actually goes out past the moon. Press 1 if you knew that. Press 2 if you're like, man, what are you talking about? Yeah.